We are continuing in the mimer in Torah Ohr, and we're explaining why it was that Moshe was covered peh. Good. Why is it that Moshe could not speak? It was difficult for him to speak. So one of you has your microphone on, and I can hear all sorts of extraneous noises coming in. So if you don't mind, let's see, maybe I can do it actually from here. Let's see, here we go. Okay, so Moshe was very Moshe was very, very high, very, very holy. And it said, but he had a big speech impediment, and he couldn't speak. He said, God, I'm hard. I have a speech impediment. I can't speak. How can I go to Pharaoh and start to talk to him and tell him it'll take me a 10-second message? It'll take me 3 minutes. Maybe he hasn't got, there'll be a laughing stock. God said, who makes the mouths anyway? Who makes mouths? Who gave you a mouth? You think I'm making a mistake? God said, don't worry, I'll be with your mouth. So we have to understand what exactly is this conversation. What's the conversation going on? Why couldn't God just either make Moshe that he could speak? And why did Moshe complain to God? I mean, Moshe knew that God had chosen him. And so what if he couldn't speak? What difference does it make? There's people that, in fact, there's a very well-known speaker in Chabad, that he was a very talented, very very intelligent person, but he stammered. And he went into the Rebbe, and he said, and the Rebbe said, you can be a public speaker. He said, but every time I speak in front of people, I've never been a public speaker. Every time I speak, I stammer. And the Rebbe said, don't worry, when you speak in front of a crowd, you won't stammer. So when you speak to him one-on-one, sometimes he gets caught up in the middle of a word, in the middle of a sentence, and he starts to stammer. Instead of saying, how are you? He'll say how, and he gets caught up on a word for, 10, 15 seconds. But when he speaks in a crowd, never happens. He speaks wonderfully, and he's invited all over. He's a very good speaker, very. So why couldn't God do something like that? No, there has to be this whole big conversation. It's written in the Bible. It's written in the Torah. Now, the Torah, every word of the Torah is written by God. And so this conversation must be very important. And the whole word Torah means, one second, is there someone? The word Torah means, oh, here we go. Sorry. Means teaching. So obviously this is coming in to teach us something. I'm sorry for those who are coming in late. They made a new system here that someone who comes in, I don't know. I have to look and search around to find that someone has come in and then to admit them. So, all right, that's another one of the problems of Gullus. Okay, so the Rebbe explains like this. There are two different opinions in Kabbalah about the creation of the world. One opinion says, everyone agrees that this is the second era. There were 7,000 years before this time. And there's books before the Arizal, Sefer Tamuna, he brings, that they understand from this that there's going to be 5 more. There's going to be 5 more eons of 7,000 years. And the Rebbe said that's not so. According to the Arizal also, it's not so. This period that we're in now is what's called 7,000 years. 7,000 years. And then Abraham was around this after 2,000 years, and the destruction of the temple was another 2,000 years. 2,000 years, 7,000 years. What about the 7,000 years that was before ours? So that wasn't 7,000 physical years. That was an order of creation, which is called Tohu. And we talked about this yesterday. And why it's called 7,000? Okay, it's a spiritual reason with the Sphirot and the numbers, but nevertheless, Suffice it to say that that was not a spiritual world like ours, and there was not another Torah like ours. There wasn't, it was different, something different. It wasn't so. The Torah that we got is the only Torah, and this physical world is the only physical world, and that's it. There's not going to be any physical world after this, and there was no physical world before this. But if you look in the Kabbalah books, it explains that there was a whole order of creation, so to speak, before this world, before the Bible, the Torah. He says that's why the Torah starts with letter base, to show that that's only the second stage. The first stage was, if you want to call it, before this world, but it wasn't before in time, because when this world, physical world, was created, that's when time started. But the foundations of time and the principles of time, that existed before, and that's basically called the world of Tohu. The world of Tohu is also what's called 10 sphirot, 10 aspects of God, but each one is totally pure, and there's no mixing between them. Everything is pure. Chesed is pure chesed, Gevura is pure Gevura, etc. Chachma is pure, everything is pure. There's other Maimorim where they talk about the breaking of the vessels, but here it doesn't talk about that. Here it just talks about the highness, the pristineness, the holiness, the purity, the power of the aspects of Tohu. Tohu is every one of the 10 creative forces of God. It's called God's Sphirot. Every one of the, or God's personality, that they were all pure. There was no mixing. Nothing was, so to speak, above the other. There was no high or low, in a way. But in any case, there was no harmony. There was no mixing. None of the Sphirot mixed. Therefore, there's sometimes they're called Nekudot, Nekudim. They're called points. Sometimes it's called Igulim. Same name for Tohu. It's like spheres. Each one is inside of the other one, and none of them touch the other. But there's something that's called tikkun. Then when God started, that was all a preparation for creating this world. That was a preparation, a preparatory state. Like I explained yesterday, it's sort of like the notes of music before the composer starts to make harmony and melody and rhythm and things like that with them. They're just pure notes, pure. Right? A is pure A, B is B, pure notes. Or like a painter, just the pure colors, right? Or a writer, just the letters alone, with no intermixing. And then that's pure. But then that was only a preparation, just like the notes and the letters and the colors are just a preparation for that. Then God made a whole new order. This took all this purity and he started to mix it and made this world. And that's how the Torah starts off. God makes a world and he makes the heavens, he makes an earth. And then finally in the end, he makes man, which man includes the whole entire business of. That's the creation of the world. That's where he gave the Torah. Okay. That new order, that's called tikkun. Tohu and tikkun. Tohu is this pristine order of things where there is no harmony whatsoever. There's no, in a way, no order of things. Everything is just what it is, and it's nothing else, has no connection to anything else. That's something like an animal in this world. We see a dog is just a dog. A cat is a cat, right? A monkey is a monkey. A dog can't act like a cat naturally. Maybe you can teach it. Because dog, that's one of the properties of a dog. He can learn. Dogs like to be in packs. They want a leader. Okay, that's. But every animal has its own nature. That's something like tohu. But a human being can act like a dog, like a cat. He can be intelligent. He can change himself. He can alter himself. So says the Rebbe, there's a big advantage in this harmony thing. There's a big disadvantage. What's the big disadvantage? That everything loses its power and its purity. Like in an orchestra, right? If the clarinet, it plays a whatever is composition. So the clarinet or the bassoon or whatever it is, it can't just play what it wants. It just can't do what it wants. If you can just have a like tohu, every instrument is just goes on its own, like when before when they're warming up, right? The instruments is just everything for itself, right? It's no harmony, no this, but it's the ultimate bassoon, and the highest, the lowest, the fastest, the slowest. But as soon as there's harmony, so everything loses its power. There has to be order in things. There has to be how do you call it? Like a composer, a conductor that tells everybody when to play, what to play, when. Right? A writer has to arrange the letters. The painter has to arrange the paint. Every paint can't just do what it wants. There has to be harmony, and so if so, everything is losing its pristineness. That's sort of not good. It says, but what? There is this thing of harmony, and harmony. There's also another thing, and that's the whole point of creation. Hainu, what's the advantage of this world of tohu? That what is written in Sefer, the book Sefer Yetzirah. Na'otz techilatan v'sofim. Sefer Yetzirah is the book of creation, and explains the secret of the 22 letters of the alphabet and what's called the 10 sfirot and the 22 letters of the alphabet, and you put them together and it makes the 32 paths of wisdom. And very short book, Sefer Yetzirah. It says it was used by rabbis. Rabbah says used it created a human being. It says Hainu, that what it says Sefer Yetzirah, but there's a big advantage in this world of tikkun, where all of the lights have lost their purity and everything is intermeshed and things like this. But there's a big advantage, and that is na'atz techilasan v'sofim v'techilasan. That the beginning is found in the end, and the end is found in the beginning. Sheyesh maila b'sof, that there's an advantage in the end, which is not in the head. What does this mean? That in this physical world, sometimes it can be that the physical is higher than the highest spiritual levels. The physical. This is not in the world of Tohu, only in this world of Tikkun. Because in the world of Tikkun, there is partsufim, means there is harmony. All the 10 sfirot, each one contains the other 10, and those 10 that it contains, each one of them also contains another 10. So if so, there comes out to be an idea of harmony. And there is also an order. There's also an order, and things are not separate from one another. Some things are higher than the others, and some things are lower than the others. In the world of Tohu, so to speak, nothing is higher, nothing is lower. Every sphere for itself. There's no interaction. But here, there's the whole thing of the world of Tikkun is interaction. That's this world. That's this created world that God created, and this world of Tohu is just a preparatory state. Now, if we remember, we said in the beginning of this mimer that Moshe, and it also said Chanoch, but Moshe, his soul came from the world of Tohu. Now, Tohu is not a thing that happened before and it doesn't happen now. It's above time, so it exists now. So Moshe's soul was connected to this pure world of Tohu. In the world of Tohu, there's no such thing as beginning and end. The end is higher than the beginning. There's no up and there's no down. So that's the idea, and that in this world, says Sheyesh Maila B'sof, that there's something good about the end in this world that's not in the beginning. Shezeh Lonim Sabah Olam, that's not in the world of Tohu, only in the world of Tikkun. Because in the world of Tikkun, there's this thing of partsufim. There is every sphera contains the other 10. That's called a partsuf, a full face. This is like, for instance, the kokos and nefesh in the body, that the intellect is in the brain and in the head, and this is the highest of the powers, right? A human being. the head and all the powers, but afterwards it comes into the hands, the power of the hands to write, to play music, to tsayer, to do work of an uman, right? So you can have the most genius, beautiful person in the world, but it ends up that, how does it come out? How does it actually sound physically? How does it look physically? What's the result physically? The lowest power is the power of action, a uman, shu koach pachot, the smallest regarding the intellect, and afterwards there's even a power that's lower than that, the feet. The feet is the power, the lowest power that there is, right? Or just the power of walking. You can't tell any, a dog can walk just like a human walks. Maybe dogs even walk better. And so the power of walking is the lowest power. But nevertheless, if you estimate and you evaluate the powers one of the other, each one on its own, as they are before they were in the limbs, certainly you'll find that the power of intellect is much higher than the power of walking in every way. Kihu b'chinas panimi, the intellect, that's the inner human power. It's higher, much higher than the power of walking. Walking, this is just the external of the soul. But after these powers are put into vessels, in other words, after they come into our body, the power of intellect in the brain and the power of walking in the feet, then you can find Mila Baregel, there's something that the foot has that the head does not have. Namely what? The feet stand up the whole body, including the head. And not only that, the feet move the whole body, including the head, from one place to another. You can't find this ability in the head at all. If so, we see that there, in this physical world, we have the physical in some ways is higher than the spiritual. Namely, the lowest power, Nils Techilas, and the highest spiritual powers are found where? In the end. Right? Just like the composer, the greatest pianist, the greatest painter, or the greatest the author, right? If you don't see it actually hear it in the music or see it in the painting or in the book, but you don't understand it, so it's not worth anything. So we see that the end somehow or other reflects the very, very highest power. Sheish Maila Basofta, there's something better in the end than there isn't not in the in the foot, in the top. And this is only because the powers are enclosed in vessels. Okay, says the Rebbe, what are we learning from this? This is what's called tohu. There in tohu is one is under the other, but in tikkun, everything is in vessels. That's the idea of beginning is inserted in the end. Okay, let's just skip a little bit because it's a little bit long, and I want to get here. It says, therefore, that's what the rabbis say. Therefore, in this world, we have an amazing thing called commandments, physical commandments. Only Judaism has this. Physical commandments. God commanded each and every Jew to do these actions, to put on tefillin, to give charity. This is commandments. To sit and learn the Torah. This is God himself right now commanding us to do actions. God has all these spiritual worlds, all the highest levels, all the angels are praising him, and etc. God, that's all wonderful. But what God wants is action in this physical world. Asher calls that all this is, why does God, actions are so important to God? Because sheyesh maila b'maisa, because there's something better about actual physical deed. Shu b'chinet netzach hod yesod, the level that's like the feet. Ma shalamayla gam machshava Eloah. This is higher than chachmei Eloah. I'm sorry. This is higher. The action, physical deed. This is God's will. This is higher than even the highest spiritual levels. Lochi, and therefore, Gam Hedjud, even the most simple Jew, Mekayim a mitzvah that does a commandment without any intention, he doesn't know any of the secrets. He just knows that this is what God wants. Yochol liot, it could be. Sheyeh yakar be'enei Hashem. This is more precious in God's eyes. Bebechinas achat, in one aspect, mikama kavanos v'hasagos, than the great intentions and ideas of the big tzaddikim. And you have Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the greatest of the high, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, highest of the high, the Baba Sali, greatest tzaddikim that there are, right? It doesn't compare their holiness and their greatness to one Jew doing a commandment. Of course, when they do a commandment, it's also, but the fact is, even when they do a commandment, the main thing of the commandment is the commandment itself. True, when they have the proper intentions, they're doing it for God. So there's wings to the commandment. It explains in Tanya, the love and the fear. But nevertheless, after everything, the main thing is the deed. Because there's a tremendous high thing, and the Tamchim Daraita, and those people that support the Torah, even more, even more than the leaders of the congregation. Those people who are the quiet ones, they support everyone, the ones that actually do, in some way, they're even greater than the big rabbis. True, they have to ask the rabbis what to do, and what the rabbis say to do, you have to do, right? But the main thing is the doing. Like we just said before about the example of the foot carrying the head. This is only in the world of tikkun. That there, nasa bechinas zu, that there is this principle with no sofa b'techilason, that the end was inserted in the beginning. In other words, the first thing that rose up in God's mind before he made this physical world was this physical world, us right now here, doing actually what God wants. That was the highest, that was the first thing. Everything else in the middle, the world of Tohu and everything, all the history of the Jewish people and all the secrets and the mysteries and giving the Torah and the amazing going out of Egypt, it was all for one thing, right now, us actually doing what God wants. That's higher than the whole business. The whole thing was before that. So the end was inserted in the beginning, and the beginning is found in the end when we do a commandment that actually gives God pleasure, in God's essence. Nachat ruach, it says. Which is not the case, the world of Tohu. The world of Tohu, that was tremendous lights of God, tremendous revelations of truth and oneness of God. There that says the lights were very great and the vessels were very few. There wasn't this thing of beginning and end. Okay, what's this got to do with us? We already explained, we already explained that the soul of Moshe Haya was Mishmita Echad. It was from the first Shemitah. It was from this world of Tohu that we talked about. The Nimshachas, and it was brought down the Olam HaTikkun to the world of Tikkun. Behu Haya, and Moshe, he was from the level of Chachma. Moshe was like from the level of Chachma of the world of Tohu. Moshe was from the level of seeing. Like it says, Bo by him, Vayar Reshit Lo, that he saw from the very beginning. That was Moshe. Lokach, therefore, what happened? So on as Moshe was born, and he started being functional in this world. And when Moshe saw, Bechinas Riyah Mamash, he could see with the wisdom of Tohu, pure seeing. He saw this world of Tikkun, what's called Atzilut. Atzilut is the beginning of the world of Tikkun. Sheyard v'nimshach, that all of a sudden he was found there, and his soul, the soul of Moshe, is a pure soul from the world of Tohu. But he comes into this low world of Tikkun where everything is orderly and the power and the pristineness and the vision is gone. But what in this world there is what's called a beginning and an end, and in the end is found the beginning. That the beginning, where is the highest level? Even we're talking about the essence of God. The essence of God made the world of Tohu, And it made the world of tikkun. The world of Tohu is an aspect of godliness. In this world of tikkun, you can actually reach the essence of godliness. The end is found in the beginning, and the beginning is found in the end. This is what God really wanted. In other words, Moshe came into a world where he said, where I come from, the ultimate pure, that's where I am. Moshe's consciousness was the world of Tohu. And he came into this world and he realized that this world is where God wants. Wow. This was in his eyes a new thing. Sharilonim says this is not found in the world of Tohu. In the world of Tohu, the aspect of Tohu, everything is pure. In this world, nothing is pure. Everything is mixed up. Right? Everything is tempered and making way from one the other. And in Tohu, everything was pure. I remember somebody told me there used to be someone here in Kfar Chabad that had a milk farm. A milk farm. Zusha Rivkin, all of a shalom. He had a milk farm. He had like 20, 30 cows, something like that. There was a big stall over there, a big cow. They used to moo in the nighttime. It smelled, but it was nice. It was people used to go in there and see the cows. No, it's not. It hasn't been there, I don't know, for 15 years, 20. Anyway, the cows. So someone, he told us in the yeshiva, he said, I went and looked at the cows today. He said, what did you look at? He said, I noticed that the cows, when they open up the door, to let the cows come and eat. How did it do? The cows would come and he would lead them in. They would come through this little narrow door and they would stand. While they were eating, he would put these milk things on them and milk them. So when they were going to eat, I noticed all the cows were pushing. No cow said to another cow, please, after you. Right? The cows, that's like the world of Tohu. Everything is for itself, totally separate. A cow is a pure cow, but it doesn't make way for another cow. Moshe Rabbeinu came into this world of Tikkun, and he saw everything was making way for everything else. All the sfirot, everything was mixed in together. There was harmony. But what he saw, that's a big descent. But he saw that there was something in this world that did not exist. Namely, that in the end was the beginning, and in the beginning was the end. That was the whole secret of this harmony. That the lowest thing could actually reach the highest, and in the highest, what was in mind the lowest. It was the essence of God specifically reflects from the lowest physical world, which is not the case by Moshe. His source was in Tohu. That's why Moshe said that he was hard to speak. He couldn't speak. Kavod Lashon. What does it mean? Sheshorsha, that his source Moshe's source came from such a high, pure world of Tohu that there were these tremendous lights. And the lights were so high they couldn't be in vessels. There was no vessels for them. So Moshe said, I have this tremendous awareness of God. I can't put it into speech. That's what it means. Kavod Peh. It says that Moshe, says that he was hard of speaking, hard of speech. Shaloya yochal hashpia. He couldn't bring his awareness down, the Ohr of his seichel, into the vessels of his mouth. And Moshe said, wow, this is a big handicap. Umailata tikkun, because I'm missing this whole essence of what this world is about. A lot of vessels in this world in order to contain these lights. This thing of this physical world with all of its concealment and all of its problems and its difficulties, and that you can't feel God, you can't, and that's what God wanted, that there should be harmony, most important. But somehow or other, because of all of this self-sacrifice, that each sphere had to sacrifice its own self, as this was the most dear thing by Hashem there could be. This physical world reaches a deed in this physical world, reaches the highest of highest. Okay, and therefore he said, Shlach no bi'ad tishlach. Therefore he said to God, listen, send whoever you want, don't send me. Hainu mishu me'olam hatikun. Send someone who can get along in this physical world. Ki b'tikun nimsam ma'ali yater, because in this physical world, there's found something that is not in my world of Tohu. My world of Tohu is the world of pure truth, pure godliness. And this world, everything is all mixed up, harmonious, and everything makes way for everything else, and nothing is pure anymore. But in this world has something that my world doesn't have, and namely what? That the beginning is found in the end, and the end is found in the beginning. That by means of one simple commandment, you reach the essence of God higher than all the highest spiritual worlds that could possibly be. And of course, the problem is that when you do the physical world, when you do a physical commandment, then you don't feel it. You don't feel godliness like you do when you're sitting and praying and thinking about how God is so great and wonderful and you're like an angel. Right? And that's wonderful, but it's not the essence of what God wants. Hainu, namely, davka mitzad, kelim, because in this world there's a lot of vessels. Kanishkal, like we said before. The Ein Zot, Etzlo, and Moshe didn't have this thing. Shari, who covered Peh? Moshe came from the world of Tohu, where there was no necessity to put things into vessels. It was just pure, leave it the way it is, just holy. Something like today, even the commandment of Shabbat, most of Shabbat is negative commandments. There's the 39 things that you're not supposed to do. Most of Shabbat is because it's so holy and so pure, right, that you don't have to do anything. There's nothing, you don't have to fix it up. So pure. The same thing with Moshe. Moshe came from a world that was so pure and so holy, he didn't have to fix it up. But nevertheless, he realized that somehow or other in this physical world, this is where God really wants to be. Says the Rebbe, this is the Tzemach Tzedek says, really the fact is that this was a very high thing by Moshe. That because we see that this was the reason, because he had so many lights. Moshe had so much light and awareness and truth of God. Therefore, there was no vessel that could receive, which is not the case in this world of Tikkun. Tikkun, this physical world that we're in, there's very, very little light in this world. That's why the temples were destroyed and everything, right? Even a little bit of godliness, when God gave the Torah on Mount Sinai, the people couldn't take it. And afterwards, they all worshipped idols. They just went berserk. They couldn't take it. And Moshe was able to take this high light. The problem is he couldn't relate to this physical world. And what did God say to Moshe? Oh, you're so holy. You're so great. I can't deal with the world. It's just so holy. So Moshe said, oh, so go to Paro and convince him to let the Jews. Paro, that's the ultimate evil, the ultimate opposite of God. Sending Moshe to Paro. How could it possibly be? Right? It's like sending the biggest holler, the biggest professor in the university, that he should be the one that cleans the toilets every day with a toothbrush. What type of a thing like this? Moshe Rabbeinu has to go to Paro. So he said, listen, God, I can't deal with this world. Send somebody else. Says the Rebbe, the fact of the matter is, it was really a very high thing. Gam ze emed, and it's truth. Ella she'im kol zeh, even though the Moshe was tremendously high, and he was tremendously holy, and he was, what does it mean, high and holy? He had the truth. Moshe Rabbeinu was close to the truth. But nevertheless, the only good thing that there is in this physical world is the vessels, nilts, techilas, and that the end is inserted in the beginning. In this physical world, there's concealment, there's very little light. It's very easy to be totally confused. But nevertheless, there is this thing about the lowest reaches the highest. Which, by the way, was why the Jews had to suffer through the exile so long. And we're going to learn it in the Sikha in just a few moments. That's what God... One minute. What happened? 1 minute. I must have skipped something over here. I made it small. And Hashem replied back to Moshe, who made a mouth to people? Isn't it me? I made a mouth. What does it mean? God said back to Moshe, it's true. What you're saying is 100% right. You're covered peh. The reason you can't speak, because you haven't got these vessels. The lights that you have, the awareness you have, is too high to put into vessels. Ki'ilu nimtzeim b'tikun. Like you haven't got the vessels like those that which are found in this physical world of tikkun. And in this physical world, the end is in the beginning is the end. In other words, there is such a thing as end and beginning. Because of the source of your soul. So therefore, you're right. You are covered peh. Your mind cannot, your awareness can't be put into any vessels in this world, not even in your mouth. You're right, Moshe. But, says God, don't worry about it. I know what I'm doing. Misam pel adam, who made it this way? Berekudas comments. Misam pel lo, who made a mouth to the man? Not just man in general, the man. Who is the man? This is talking about the known man, namely Adam Datzilut. It says in the Bible that man is made in God's image, right? Let us make God says, let us make man in our image. Man has an image. God has an image, right? Man's image is the image of God. What is this talking about? So it said, and one of the explanations is that man is made in the form of 10 sfirot, a head, that's like intellect, the heart, the emotions, the body, that's like the emotions. In more exactly, the right arm is like kindness, the left arm, and also the soul. Man has intellect, he has emotions, and God also has these qualities. True, God's qualities are absolutely nothing like ours, they're infinite. God creates us from his qualities, we can't create anything. But nevertheless, God did make man into a form, and God also has, so to speak, a form. That's called the 10 Sfirot. Another name for these 10 Sfirot is what's called the man in the world of Atzilut. The man, there's visions of Isaiah, saw a man sitting on the throne. It says the throne is the world of Bria. That's a lower dimension than Atzilus. The throne is the world of Bria, and the man sitting on the throne, that's Atzilut. So he says that's the man, that's the form of man. Benikud comments, law Adam, to the man. This insight that the known man, to not just to man in general, but to the man that's sitting on the throne. Shehu ma, this is what's called man. The gematria Adam is ma, chachma. This is the highest level of godliness which takes a form. This is the whole thing of tikkun, the world of tikkun, like it's known. That's the whole idea of the vessel of the mouth. The mouth draws down this surrounding level. Says the Rebbe says like this, Moshe, you have any idea what a mouth is? You know what a mouth is at all? You never used your mouth. You have no, your just idea is just revelation, awareness, being amazed. A person is amazed. He can't talk. So, but God said, but listen, I made a thing called a mouth. You know what a mouth is? A mouth is the ability to bring the highest revelations, highest ideas into physicality. That's why the Torah, which is from God's essence, when you learn the Torah, you have to speak. The power of speech has the ability to reveal the highest ideas, which are even incomprehensible, and to reveal them. That's the whole idea of the Torah. It says that from the mouth has the ability. God, it says, created the world with speech, with his mouth. He gave the Torah with his mouth. Where the Torah is God's mouth. Vayomer Hashem al Moshe. Vayidaber Hashem al Moshe. That God's mouth is corresponding to our mouth. It reveals, it's the ability to reveal the highest things. That's the whole idea, that the mouth has the ability to reveal this level of or makif. That's what it means. Zen, who made a mouth, Adam, to the man. Who is it that emanated? God said, who made the whole idea that there was going to be a man with a mouth? Namely, this mouth has the ability to draw down an or makif, a surrounding level. It says when you learn the Torah, you're supposed to learn it with speaking also. Or makif. It said in the sixth, was it the 5th chapter of the Tanya? Is it? That's right, 5th chapter. So it says, who made the mouth? That's what God is saying to Moshe. And who made an organ called the mouth, which has the ability to take the highest revelations and bring them into physicality, right? God said, I created the world with my mouth. I gave the Torah with my mouth. Moshe, you can also reveal your high level through your mouth. Isn't it me? Says God. Anochi. That's the essence of God. That's what God revealed. Anochi is the first word of the Ten Commandments. So that's what Moshe said. Moshe said, I come from the world of Tohu. I can't speak. I'm too high. I can't bring it into the world. And not only that, Moshe said, well, and also this world has something that I never dreamed of. The lowest is actually the highest. I don't know what this means. I can't bring this into speech. Right? This is something beyond even me. So on one hand, Moshe was higher than everything, so he couldn't be. On the other hand, Moshe was humbled by the fact that the lowest, which Moshe didn't have anything about being low, the lowest really reached even higher than what he was. So God said, don't worry about it, Moshe. You're not the boss here. I'm the boss. I created you. I created all these worlds. I created the mouth. I created Paro. I want there to be a real world. You have to use your free will. You go and take. And what happened in the end, we'll learn today at the class at 3:00. We'll learn about Moshe and the burning bush, that God gives all these reasons and explanations, and he's pleading. It says he was 7 days, he was there pleading at with Moshe on the burning bush. And he gives him all these reasons. He says, I'm going to give you, I'll be with your mouth and you'll go into power, you'll succeed. And finally, Moshe said, listen, God, maybe send somebody else, right? I don't want to do it. So we'll see that nevertheless, it did work, but it didn't work totally. In the end, the Jewish people got out of Egypt and they worshiped the golden calf. How this happened, why this happened, it says clear that Moshe wasn't there with them. As soon as they thought that Moshe wasn't going to come back, all the revelations in Mount Sinai and the miracles going out of Egypt wasn't enough for them. And the Jews reverted back to their old concealed selves, normal selves. And that's why we have to have a Moshe in our generation. And that's the idea of the Mashiach, King Mashiach, that God will be with his mouth, that even people like us will take it to heart and realize that God is also creating our mouths. And God wants us also to be pure and go out of Egypt. And that's the miracles that God does only if we ask and request and really want, like Moshe did. Now we'll learn a sikha of the Rebbe. There's a little bit more to this mimer, but we ran out of time. And tomorrow we don't learn the mimer, we'll learn a sikha. Okay, let's go to this beautiful sikha of the Rebbe. Let's go back. Sikha. Now, yesterday we learned a sikha. The sikha comes from Chilik Yud Aleph. Let's go back here. Good. Very good. Okay. What happened? 1 second, 1 minute, 1 moment over there. 1 minute. Here. Oh.